What if I told you that every single night your brain does something that technically shouldn't be possible? I'm not talking about weird dreams where you show up to work naked or your teeth fall out. I'm talking about something way more fundamental. Something that, according to our understanding of physics, violates the basic rules of how the universe works. Here's the thing that keeps neuroscientists up at night. And yeah, the irony isn't lost on me. When you dream, your brain creates entire worlds, complete, immersive, three-dimensional realities with people, places, physics, light, sound, and time. All from nothing. No external input, no sensory data, just pure creation. And that breaks some serious rules. Today, we're diving deep into one of the most mind-bending mysteries in science. How do dreams work? Why do they seem to violate causality, thermodynamics, and our understanding of consciousness itself? And what does this tell us about the nature of reality? Buckle up! This one's gonna get weird. Okay, let's start with the basic question that most people never think to ask. How is dreaming even physically possible? Think about what's happening when you dream. Your brain, a 3-pound chunk of biological tissue, is generating a complete, immersive simulation of reality. We're talking full sensory experience. You see colors, you hear sounds, you feel emotions. Sometimes you even feel physical sensations like pain or pleasure, and it's doing all of this with your eyes closed in complete darkness, with essentially zero input from the outside world. Now here's where it gets crazy. In waking life, everything you experience, every sight, every sound, every sensation, comes from external stimuli hitting your sensory organs. Light enters your eyes, sound waves hit your eardrums, molecules trigger your smell receptors. Your brain then processes these signals and constructs your experience of reality. But in dreams, there's no external input. Your sensory organs are basically offline. And yet, your brain is still producing experiences that feel completely real. Dr. Matthew Walker, a neuroscientist at UC Berkeley and author of Why We Sleep, puts it this way. The dreaming brain is essentially hallucinating a reality that's indistinguishable from waking experience, but doing so without any of the usual inputs. Let me break down why this is such a problem for physics. According to information theory, and this is fundamental physics we're talking about, information can't be created from nothing. This is sometimes called the conservation of information, and it's as foundational as the conservation of energy. In simple terms, you can't get something from nothing, but dreams seem to violate this principle constantly. Think about it. When you dream about a place you've never been, let's say a bizarre alien landscape with purple skies and floating mountains, where did that visual information come from? You've never seen it. You've never experienced it. Your brain has no sensory record of it. And yet there it is, fully rendered, detailed, immersive. Wait, you might say. Maybe the brain is just recombining memories and images it's seen before? Okay, fair point. But here's the problem with that explanation. Dr. Robert Stickgold at Harvard Medical School has studied dream content extensively, and he's found that about 50% of dream content features elements that the dreamer has never encountered in any form. People dream of faces they've never seen, in places that don't exist, experiencing physics that don't match reality. Where is this information coming from? Some neuroscientists argue it's random noise, the brain's attempt to make sense of chaotic neural firing during sleep. But that explanation doesn't hold up under scrutiny. Random noise doesn't produce coherent narratives. It doesn't create consistent physics within a dream world. It doesn't generate emotionally meaningful experiences. Dreams have structure. They have rules. Even if those rules are weird, they have continuity. And that suggests something much more interesting is going on. Okay, here's where things get really mind-bending. One of the weirdest things about dreams is how they handle time. And I'm not just talking about dreams that feel longer or shorter than they actually are. I'm talking about something that seems to genuinely violate causality. Let me give you an example that researchers have documented. There's a famous case study from Stanford sleep researcher Dr. William Dement. A subject was sleeping in a lab while researchers monitored his brain activity. At the exact moment they played a loud sound, a bell ringing. The subject's REM sleep patterns showed he was dreaming. When they woke him up immediately after, he reported having a long, elaborate dream where he was in a church, and the dream ended with the church bells ringing. Think about what that means. The dream seemingly incorporated the external sound, the bell, into the narrative. But here's the thing, the bell rang at the end of the dream. For the dream to make narrative sense, the entire storyline leading up to that moment had to already be in place. Did the brain somehow know the bell was coming? Did it predict the future? Or did it retroactively construct an entire dream narrative in the fraction of a second between the bell ringing and the subject waking up? None of these options make sense according to conventional physics. Dr. Dement and other researchers have replicated this phenomenon dozens of times with different stimuli: water drops, touches, temperature changes. In many cases, dreamers incorporate these external stimuli into elaborate narratives that seem to have been building toward that moment. This suggests one of two things, both of which are wild. Either the brain can predict random external events before they happen, which would be precognition, or the brain can construct elaborate false memories in milliseconds, complete with sensory detail and emotional content. Neither explanation fits neatly into our current understanding of physics or neuroscience. Let's talk about consciousness for a second, because this is where dreams get philosophically terrifying. In waking life, you're conscious. You have subjective experiences. You feel like you exist inside your body, looking out at the world. Philosophers call this phenomenal consciousness, the felt quality of experience. When you dream, that consciousness doesn't disappear. It goes somewhere else. In a dream, you're still conscious. You're still having subjective experiences. You still feel like you. But the you in the dream is experiencing a completely fabricated reality that your own brain is generating. Here's the question that's been haunting philosophers and neuroscientists for decades. If your brain can generate a completely convincing alternate reality while you're asleep, how do you know it's not doing the same thing while you're awake? This is basically a real-world version of the simulation hypothesis, except it's not hypothetical. Your brain provably does this every single night. Dr. Anil Seth, a neuroscientist at the University of Sussex and one of the leading researchers on consciousness, puts it this way. Your waking experience is actually a kind of controlled hallucination. The brain is constantly predicting and generating your experience of reality. The only difference between waking and dreaming is that during waking, those predictions are constrained by sensory input. Think about what he's saying. Even right now as you're watching this video, your brain isn't passively receiving reality. It's actively constructing it. The colors you see, the sounds you hear, the feeling of your body in space, all of it is a simulation being generated by your brain. In waking life, that simulation is anchored to external reality by your senses. In dreams, there's no anchor. The simulation runs free. And the fact that dream experiences can feel just as real, sometimes more real, than waking experiences raises some seriously uncomfortable questions about the nature of reality itself. Now, if regular dreams are weird from a physics perspective, lucid dreams are absolutely bonkers. For those who don't know, a lucid dream is a dream where you become aware that you're dreaming while still inside the dream. And here's the crazy part. Once you become aware, you can often take control. You can change the dream. You can fly. You can manipulate the environment. You can do literally anything. Dr. LaBerge at Stanford was one of the first scientists to prove that lucid dreams are real and measurable. In his studies, lucid dreamers would signal from inside their dreams using predetermined eye movements, which carry over into the physical body during REM sleep to confirm they were conscious and aware. But here's what makes lucid dreams so fascinating from a physics standpoint. When a lucid dreamer takes control of a dream, they're essentially becoming the conscious architect of a simulated reality. They're exercising intentional causality within a world that their own brain is generating. Think about what that means. In waking life, you can't just decide that gravity doesn't exist and then float. Reality has rules that you can't override with intention alone. But in a lucid dream, you can. Some researchers, like Dr. Thomas Metzinger at the Johannes Gutenberg University in Germany, argue that lucid dreaming offers a unique window into the nature of consciousness and reality itself. In his view, lucid dreams prove that consciousness can operate independently of physical reality, that the self we experience is a construct that can exist in any simulated environment. Others go even further. Dr. Robert Waggoner, author of Lucid Dreaming, Gateway to the Inner Self, has documented cases where lucid dreamers claim to have accessed information they couldn't possibly have known. Future events, hidden knowledge, insights about other people. Now, to be clear, these claims are highly controversial and haven't been rigorously proven, but they point to something important. We don't fully understand the boundaries of consciousness in dreams, and that uncertainty should make us question our assumptions about the boundaries of consciousness in waking life. All right, let's talk about energy, because dreams might also violate thermodynamics. When you dream, your brain is incredibly active. In fact, during REM sleep, when most vivid dreams occur, your brain consumes almost as much energy as when you're awake. MRI studies show massive neural activity across multiple brain regions, so energy is being consumed. No violation there. But here's where it gets weird. That energy is being used to generate experiences, subjective, felt experiences, colors, sounds, emotions, sensations. And according to our current understanding of physics, there's no clear mechanism for how physical energy can produce subjective experience. This is called the hard problem of consciousness, and it's one of the biggest unsolved problems in science. Dr. David Chalmers, the philosopher who coined the term, puts it this way. We know the brain processes information. We know it responds to stimuli, but none of that explains why there's something it feels like to have a brain. Why isn't it all just information processing in the dark? Dreams make this problem even harder, because in dreams the brain is generating full-blown conscious experiences without any external cause. It's pure internal generation, and somehow electrical signals in neurons are translating into the felt experience of seeing a sunset, or feeling fear, or experiencing love. How? We have no idea. Some physicists, like Sir Roger Penrose and Dr. Stuart Hameroff, have proposed that consciousness might involve quantum processes in the brain, that subjective experience might arise from quantum coherence in microtubules within neurons. Their theory, called orchestrated objective reduction, suggests that consciousness is a fundamental feature of the universe, not just an emergent property of brains. If they're right, dreams might be our brain tapping into something deeper, something built into the fabric of reality itself. It's a controversial idea, but it would help explain why dreams feel so real. They might be connecting to the same underlying consciousness field that generates waking experience. Let's talk about memory, because dreams reveal something deeply strange about how memory works. In waking life, your memories are stored through physical changes in your brain, strengthening of synaptic connections, structural changes in neurons, patterns of activity that can be reactivated. But dream memories are weird. When you wake up from a dream, you might have vivid, detailed memories of what happened. But those memories fade incredibly fast, usually within minutes if you don't consciously try to hold on to them. It's like they're written in disappearing ink. Dr. Robert Stickgold's research at Harvard suggests that dream memories are stored differently than waking memories. They might use different neural pathways, different consolidation processes. They're almost like a separate memory system. But here's what's really strange. While you're dreaming, you often have access to memories you can't access while awake. People report dreaming about events from early childhood they had completely forgotten. They dream of people they haven't thought about in decades. They access knowledge and skills they didn't know they had. It's like dreams have access to a deeper database, a more complete record of your experiences than your conscious mind normally accesses. Some researchers believe this might be because dreams bypass the normal retrieval mechanisms that filter what memories you can access. In waking life, you can only remember what you can find. In dreams, everything might be available. If that's true, it suggests that your brain contains far more information than you consciously know. And dreams might be a window into that hidden archive. Okay, now we're getting into territory that makes most scientists uncomfortable. But I'd be doing you a disservice if I didn't mention it. There are documented cases of shared dreams. Dreams where two or more people seem to have experienced the same dream simultaneously. Dr. Stanley Krippner at Saybrook University has spent decades studying these phenomena. His research, while controversial, has documented dozens of cases where people reported remarkably similar dream content on the same night, including specific details that couldn't be explained by coincidence. Now, mainstream science doesn't accept shared dreams as proven. The evidence is anecdotal, and there are lots of potential confounding factors. But the reports persist, and they raise an interesting question. If consciousness can generate independent realities in dreams, is it possible that consciousness isn't as isolated as we think? Could there be some underlying connection between minds that becomes more apparent in dreams? Carl Jung, the famous psychologist, proposed the concept of the collective unconscious, a shared layer of consciousness that all humans tap into. He believed dreams were a window into this collective level, which would explain why dream symbolism is often similar across cultures. Modern science hasn't validated Jung's theories, but it also hasn't definitively disproven them. We simply don't understand consciousness well enough to know what's possible. Let's address the elephant in the room. Precognitive dreams, dreams that seem to predict the future. Now, before you close this video, hear me out. I'm not saying precognitive dreams are definitely real, but I am saying that the evidence is interesting enough that serious scientists have studied them. Dr. Jessica Utz, a statistician at UC Davis, conducted a meta-analysis of precognition research for the US government in the 1990s. Her conclusion? There is compelling evidence that precognition exists as a real phenomenon. She was specifically looking at laboratory studies, but dreams were part of the evidence. Here's how these studies typically work. Subjects sleep in a lab while their brain activity is monitored. They're asked to dream about a target, usually a randomly selected image or video that will be shown to them after they wake up. The question is whether their dream content will match the future target better than chance. Dr. Carlisle Smith and other researchers have found statistically significant correlations in these studies. Not huge effects, but consistent, reproducible effects that are hard to explain away. What could possibly explain this? Some physicists, like Dr. Dean Radin at the Institute of Noetic Sciences, propose that time might not be as linear as we experience it. In quantum physics, certain phenomena, like entanglement, seem to involve connections that transcend normal time and space. If consciousness has quantum properties, it might be able to access information from future states. Again, this is highly speculative, but it's not completely crazy from a physics standpoint. And if it's true, if consciousness in dreams can access future information, that would fundamentally change our understanding of reality. All right, let's get really wild for a minute. Some physicists have proposed that dreams might actually be glimpses into parallel universes. The many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics, proposed by Hugh Everett in 1957 and taken seriously by physicists like Sean Carroll at Caltech, suggests that every quantum event creates branching realities. Every moment, the universe is splitting into countless parallel versions. If these parallel universes exist, and if consciousness is somehow connected across them, then dreams might be windows into other versions of reality, other versions of your life, other versions of you. This would explain a lot of weird dream phenomena. Why dreams sometimes feature impossible physics? Because you're experiencing the physics of a different universe. Why dreams feature people and places you've never encountered? Because you're accessing another version of reality where you have. Why dreams sometimes seem prophetic? Because you're glimpsing a parallel universe where a different timeline is playing out. Now, I want to be clear, this is highly speculative. There's no proven mechanism for how consciousness could access parallel universes, and the many worlds interpretation itself, while mathematically valid, isn't proven. But it's interesting to think about, and it's consistent with what many dreamers report, the feeling that dreams aren't just imagination, but actual experiences of somewhere else. Okay, let's ground this back in established science for a minute. Because while the speculative stuff is fascinating, there's also a lot we do know about dreams. We know that dreams primarily occur during REM sleep, when the brain is highly active but the body is temporarily paralyzed. This paralysis, called atonia, prevents us from acting out our dreams. We know that certain brain regions are more active during dreams than during waking life, including the limbic system, which processes emotions, and the visual cortex, which processes images. Meanwhile, the prefrontal cortex, responsible for logic and critical thinking, is relatively quiet. That's why dreams often feel emotionally intense, but logically bizarre. We know that dreams seem to play a role in memory consolidation. Studies show that people who dream about a task they're learning perform better on that task afterward. We know that dream deprivation has serious consequences. In lab studies, subjects who are prevented from dreaming become irritable, anxious, and have difficulty concentrating. After several days, they may begin to hallucinate while awake. And we know that dreams can be influenced by external factors. What you ate, what you experienced that day, even environmental sounds that penetrate sleep. But despite decades of research, we still don't have a complete theory of why dreams exist or how they work at a fundamental level. Dr. J. Allen Hobson at Harvard spent his career studying dreams, and even he admitted, "We understand the neuroscience of sleep pretty well, but dreams remain mysterious." Let me bring this all together with a mind-bending thought experiment. Every night, your brain generates a complete simulated reality that you experience as real. While you're in that dream, you have no idea it's a dream. You accept it as reality. You think, you feel, you act, all within a simulation your own mind is creating. Now, here's the question. If your brain can do this so convincingly while you're asleep, how do you know it's not doing something similar right now? The simulation hypothesis, proposed by philosopher Nick Bostrom at Oxford, suggests that our entire reality might be a simulation run by some advanced civilization. But forget about external simulators for a moment. What if your brain is the simulator? What if what you experience as waking reality is just another layer of simulation, slightly more constrained than dreams, but fundamentally the same kind of thing? Dr. Donald Hoffman at UC Irvine has proposed something like this. His theory suggests that our brains don't show us reality as it actually is. They show us a useful interface, like the desktop on your computer. The desktop isn't the actual computer processes happening underneath. It's a simplified representation designed to be useful. Similarly, what you experience as reality might be a simplified representation designed for survival, not reality itself. And dreams? Dreams might be what happens when that interface is unconstrained, when the simulator runs without external input, generating whatever it wants. If that's true, then dreams aren't just weird experiences during sleep. They're revelations about the nature of experience itself. They're proof that consciousness can exist independently of any particular reality. And that's profound. So where do we go from here? Dream research is actually entering a new golden age, thanks to advances in technology. Dr. Yukiyasu Kamitani at Kyoto University has used machine learning and fMRI to actually reconstruct rough images of what people are dreaming. It's like reading dreams from brain activity. The images are blurry and imprecise, but they're unmistakably connected to dream content. Other researchers are developing more sophisticated methods for communicating with dreamers during REM sleep. We've known for decades that certain eye movements and muscle twitches carry over from dreams into the physical body. Now scientists are using these signals to create two-way communication, asking dreamers questions and receiving answers from inside the dream. Dr. Karen Concoli at Northwestern has published studies where lucid dreamers successfully answered math questions and recognized words spoken to them, all while asleep and dreaming. The implications are staggering. We might eventually be able to interview people inside their dreams. We might be able to record dreams like movies. And as we understand more about the neural mechanisms of dreaming, we might be able to induce specific kinds of dreams, enhance creativity, accelerate learning, or even treat psychological conditions through targeted dream manipulation. The military has already shown interest. DARPA has funded research into whether dreams could be used for training or problem solving. Imagine practicing a skill in a dream and having that practice transfer to waking performance. The potential is incredible and slightly terrifying. Let me leave you with this. Dreams reveal that your brain is capable of generating complete immersive realities from nothing. That consciousness can exist and experience without external input. that the line between real and simulated is far blurrier than we normally assume. This has implications for everything. For philosophy, dreams prove that subjective experience doesn't require an external world. The hard problem of consciousness becomes even harder when you realize consciousness can generate its own reality. For physics, dreams challenge our assumptions about information, causality, and the relationship between mind and matter. They suggest that consciousness might be more fundamental than we thought. For psychology, dreams show us that the self we experience is a construct, one that can exist in any environment our brain generates. Who we think we are is just one version of who we could be. For spirituality, dreams have been considered meaningful across every human culture. They've been seen as messages from gods, glimpses of other realms, connections to deceased loved ones. Maybe there's something to that intuition. And for everyday life, dreams remind us that reality, all of it, is a kind of experience, something we're conscious of. And if dreams can feel real, then maybe the realness we feel in waking life is also a kind of creation, not less real, but not as simply real as we assume. So where does this leave us? We know dreams happen. We know they involve incredible feats of neural generation. We know they reveal something profound about consciousness and reality, but we don't fully understand them. We can't explain how the brain creates such vivid simulations from nothing. We can't explain the time paradoxes, the information generation, the occasional phenomena that seem to transcend normal physics. Dreams are one of the most common human experiences. Everyone has them, and yet they're also one of the most mysterious. Maybe that's the point. Maybe dreams are supposed to remind us that we don't have it all figured out, that reality is stranger than our waking minds can fully grasp, that there's more going on in our heads and in the universe than we normally acknowledge. Every night, you experience something that shouldn't be possible. You generate a world, you live in it, you forget it, and then you wake up and assume this is the real one. Pretty crazy, right? If this blew your mind, check out the video on consciousness and quantum physics. It goes even deeper into how reality might not be what it seems. And drop a comment. What's the wildest dream you've ever had? I genuinely want to know. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.